Welcome to The Explainer. For years now, the whole conversation around artificial intelligence has been literally obsessed with size and scale. Bigger is better, right? Well, actually, we're hitting a massive breaking point. Today, we're going to dive into a total paradigm shift in the foundational architecture of AI. Because think about it like a physical skyscraper. If your bedrock is weak, it really doesn't matter how many billions of parameters you stack on top of it. Eventually, the whole shebang is going to collapse. Right now, the tech world has this loud, almost frantic obsession with mass data gathering. It's just a relentless race to scrape and hoard as much info from the web as humanly possible. And why? Well, because scraping is cheap. But here's the crazy part. There's a silent, glaring lack of focus on actually verifying any of that data. We've somehow built an industry culture that aggressively rewards sheer volume, but completely ignores the rigorous and, yeah, often expensive process of fact-checking what we're actually feeding these massive models. And honestly, that is the real problem right there. Blindly collecting info without verifying a single piece of it, that doesn't build intelligence. It just builds a massive bottleneck. This is the absolutely crucial failing point of modern large language models. They just gorge on information without any mechanism to digest whether that data is true or accurate or honestly even useful. When you feed a model poisoned or unvetted data, it leads directly to those persistent hallucinations and logic failures that are totally plaguing enterprise deployments today. So you have to ask yourself, if this relentless hoarding of information isn't working, what's the actual path forward? What does AI functionally require to move from being this fascinating, kind of unpredictable novelty to a deeply reliable enterprise-grade tool? Because I think we all know by now, the missing ingredient isn't just throwing more compute at it or building larger context windows. The answer actually starts with a pretty hard truth. AI doesn't just need more data. We really have to completely let go of the idea that sheer volume is the magic bullet. We're rapidly hitting the limit of high-quality human data available on the open internet anyway. Just shoveling millions of unvetted, synthetically generated documents back into a system, that doesn't magically make it smarter. In fact, training models on other models' garbage output actively degrades performance. Researchers literally call this model collapse. So yeah, quantity is officially no longer the key. Instead, the data we use has to meet some very specific, rigorous criteria. First up, it's got to be trustworthy, meaning accurate and reliable right from the source. Second, and honestly this might be the most important one, it must be traceable. You know that black box problem everyone complains about? It's a massive pain point. If we can't look at a model's output and trace the logic all the way back to the exact data point it learned it from, we simply cannot trust the answer. For critical applications, and finally, third, it has to be structured. We can't just have a chaotic data swamp. It needs to be organized in a precise way that the AI can actually process effectively. Trustworthy, traceable, structured. That is our new gold standard. Now, when we talk about finding a functional, scalable solution to this whole verified data problem, a project called CodeData is really stepping into the spotlight. They aren't just playing that old game of scraping data, they're actively building a decentralized network designed specifically to verify data at scale. So instead of relying on closed, opaque systems, CodeData leverages a community-driven protocol. Contributors and validators actually check and curate the data points. They're looking directly at the architecture of how we build intelligence, and they're creating a distributed engine to build a much better foundation. And their guiding philosophy here is super interesting. It's not just about contributing tasks. See, for a long time, data work and AI was viewed as this simple, repetitive labor. Think of endless capture solving or basic labeling farms, just dumping info into a digital bucket. But CodeData fundamentally shifts that dynamic away from those low-level chores. By incentivizing deep, domain-specific verification through their network, they're basically turning contributors into architects. It's no longer about isolated, mindless tagging. It's about deliberately constructing the foundational architecture of reliable AI. Just imagine how a single complex piece of data flows through a system like this. First, it gets meticulously checked by the network, just reviewed for baseline accuracy. Then it moves on to being validated, where consensus mechanisms confirm its truthfulness against really strict standards. Only after surviving those rigorous checkpoints does it reach the ultimate goal, which is being seamlessly integrated into a dataset where it can be reused with confidence. When data goes through this exact lifecycle, developers aren't just crossing their fingers and hoping the AI doesn't hallucinate. They have actual mathematical and structural confidence that their model's building blocks are fundamentally solid. Because here's the thing, if you skipped those crucial steps, that unverified data inevitably just turns into noise in the long run. That is the harsh technical reality of long-term AI deployment. Without validation, every single thing you accumulate eventually degrades the model's performance. The parameters drift, the outputs become way less precise. It doesn't become this expansive, beautiful web of knowledge, it just becomes useless, deafening noise inside the neural network. Without continuous verification, that very data pipeline you thought was making your system smarter, it's actually polluting its foundation and leading straight to systemic model decay. Which really brings us to two drastically diverging paths for the entire tech industry right now. On one hand, you've got the legacy approach, systems built on chaotic, unverified noise that are eventually going to collapse under the weight of their own contradictions and hallucinations. On the other hand, you have the future we're actively aiming for, highly reliable, enterprise-ready AI that is built exclusively on verified quality. These two drastically different approaches to building intelligence lead to two drastically different outcomes. One gives you an unreliable black box, and the other, it gives you a true, sustainable architectural marvel. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a thought to really chew on the next time you use any AI tool or integrate a new model into your workflow. Is the intelligence it's giving you built on noise, or is it built on quality? Are you interacting with a system that's just gorged on unverified data, or one that's built on a trustworthy, traceable foundation? Honestly, asking that question changes entirely how you view the technology in front of you. Keep questioning the architecture and keep seeking out the quality.